Pokemon Fusion games. There's about 1,000 of them at this point, but a lot of you wanted me to try out Pokemon Minced Fusions. Now at first glance it might look like any other Pokemon Fusion ROM hack. And while yes, it might be based on Pokemon Fire Red like most of them are, it also offers you 253 unique fusions, and 14 of those can also Mega Evolve. And I know a lot of people, including me, are a big fan of new Megas. It also gives you some quality of life changes, and the best feature of all, boosted shiny odds to 1 in 1024. Combine this with a much harder difficulty than base Fire Red, and you've got quite an interesting game on your hands. But today I'll be making it even more challenging by limiting myself to only using Pokemon from the most popular type, Dragon. Forget piles of gold, our dragons are going to be guarding something way more valuable: questionable design choices. So let's gear up and see if anybody can slay our mythical abominations. We start out as a lowly knight that just wants to recruit all dragons into his army. But before knights and trainers discovered fusions, two strange creators shaped this bizarre universe, and they go by the names of Minced Grass, who tore Pokemon apart and reassembled them in ways nature never intended, and secondly, Sleepy Jirachi, who held the entire fabric of this world together. But they also had dedicated followers like me and my rival, who seems to have a very weird name: Subnow. Could that be referring to the point that we're almost at 600,000 subscribers? No, stuff like that doesn't exist in the Pokemon world. So instead of listening to this seemingly random event, let's move on to a canon one where we actually get to pick our starter Pokemon. We had the choice of not only the Kanto starters, but also the Creation Trio, with Squilkia, Bulbatina, and Dialmander. Only one of these ended up being a Dragon type, so we picked up the Deity of Space, Squilkia, who had the advantage of only having 2 weaknesses due to his Water Dragon typing, those being Dragon itself and Fairy. However, none of this could really save me in our first rival battle because Bulbatina was immune to my tackles due to its Ghost typing, and my Water Guns were not very effective due to his Grass side. Meaning I got whipped with a couple of vines and had my first embarrassing loss right there and then. But we could redeem ourselves to Oak if we picked up its package at the local mart in Viridian City. A quest that was completed in a matter of a couple of seconds, and as a reward he puts his balls in my bag. As I was checking out this new and twisted world, I saw that there were quite a few changes from regular Fire Red, like this smiley face that was staring straight into my soul. This made me feel quite uneasy, so I started doing the exact same to all the bug catchers in Viridian. This left all of them cowering in fear and allowed us to reach Pewter sooner rather than later. With the new map changes, we were able to pick up the TM for Rock Tomb quite early, but on a slightly sadder note, there weren't any other Dragon types available before the first gym. So I stepped in without hesitation, expecting to face Brock. But he's been replaced by Marcy, a future kahuna of the Alola region. This guy had 3 Pokemon: Meowmask, Wimpshrew, and Rhypig. All of them got blasted away by my water pulses, but this did end up being a pretty close battle, with me being burned by a Will-O-Wisp and even tanking the special Z move Tectonic Rage in the process. By showing off this much resilience, my starter immediately evolved into Wartorkia, plus we got our gym badge and the Groundium Z. Soon after, this next road would lead us to Mount Moon, the spot where Team Rocket normally fumbles a couple of fossils, but we are here to officially capture our second ever team member, the Fairy Dragon type Daifa. And if it wasn't clear enough, yes, it's a fusion between Dino and Cleffa. I also saw this random lady bonking her head on a stone for an infinite amount of turns, and found myself an ability pill that I used on my starter to change it from Pressure to Torrent, making his water type moves way stronger if he's on low HP. I would also learn that every area has a little sign indicating how many Pokemon there are in that designated area, which made it a lot easier to me to find out if there was a Dragon type available or not. I then didn't only steal this super nerd's lunch money, but also his fossil, and found someone's hidden rare candy stash inside of a rock. The rest of this route would lead me into Cerulean City, which is now way more cozy with all the water flowing through it. This is so far the best map change in this universe. However, we wouldn't be able to appreciate it for very long, as a rival fight in front of Nugget Bridge was inevitable. This definitely wouldn't be easy for me. He had 4 Pokemon and I only had 2, but I believe that my dragons could get the job done. We started out great against this Pidgeclank, who would not only get me an Omni Boost with my ancient power, but he would also throw some sand in my eyes. And since I didn't want to risk missing on his next Pokemon Darkzy, I decided to swap out into Daifa. You see, the main reason I did that is because Darkzy is somehow incredibly fast. Like throughout the rest of this video, I will never outspeed him or his evolution, which is why why I decided to hit it with a couple of bulldozes to lower its speed. In the meantime, my rival also switched out to his Ivy Tina, who would also take a bulldoze and an assurance before putting me to sleep with sleep powder. This allowed him to bring in Dark Z again, who whittled me down with confusions. I did hit one more bulldoze and then swapped back into my starter, which cleaned it up with a water pulse and 2 bulldozes. Once that was done, we got an incredibly lucky flinch on his Ivy Tina so that it couldn't put me to sleep, and with a second bite, we could send it back to the distortion world. This only left him with Spinata, who got crushed by rocks, and that's how I finally got revenge for our first ever loss, showing that he should bring out the big guns next time. This might come back to bite me, but I stand by what I said. After Nugget Bridge, there was this sign with an important notice saying that I needed to teleport back to Silrulian via the cave entrance because otherwise my game would crash. A very weird game bug if you ask me, but I guess it's a pretty clever solution. We then make a quick stop at Bill's house, who takes Pokemon Fusion a little bit too seriously, as he was trying to merge his own body with a Clefairy's, and now he needed my help to undo it. At first I didn't really want to help out a freak like this, but in the end he promised me some free boat tickets, and I just couldn't refuse those. Once this little side quest was completed, I went to the local gym to witness that Misty was replaced by somebody named Ranch. Normally I'd put that on my burger, but I seem to have gotten lost in the sauce, because she wasn't boasting a team of water types anymore. That entire strategy was replaced by fairy types now, and with only 2 dragon types available to me right now, you probably know how this went. Yeah, I got my ass handed to me multiple times, and just wasn't able to even put a dent in her team with my current lineup. All of these losses made me incredibly angry, so I tried to cool down by making a quick stop at the cat route. All the purring that was going on here helped me relax my mind. This gave me the strength of mind to push on in search of new team members, which led me to Vermilion City. Here I found a lot of very useful individuals, like one that was selling nearly every single sort of Pokeball, some weird guy that wanted to be paid in shrooms for his move reminding services, someone who gave me a free muscle band to boost my physical attacks. I also ended up buying lots of citrus and lumberries that will definitely come in handy in some of the upcoming fights. I spent my last amount of money on a few ability pills, saw a Pikawa trying to evolve himself with a Firestone instead of a Thunderstone, and I also finally got my 3rd team member, Tyruntra, another Dragon Fairy type. But knowing that this is eventually going to turn into a Rainbow T-Rex, I was already excited for its arrival. With it, I flashed the guards of the SSN, with my ticket of course, and ran into my rival again in front of the captain's quarters. He took it to heart when I told him that he was weak last time, and grinded up his team to insurmountable levels. And he also added a Vapormery to his arsenal. This thing wasn't only bulky, but also a steel type, meaning that it was good against 2 of my 3 Pokemon. This put me in a very awkward situation, as I lost battle after battle after battle to either his gear-grinding Pitch Clank, steel-winging Vapormery, or sleep-powdering Ivy Tina. During all of these battles, my Wartortle even learned Shell Smash, a move that drops my defensive stats but ups my attacking and speed stats. At some points, he even got at +6 in all 3 of them, which somehow still wasn't enough to one-shot all of his Pokemon, and I couldn't even outspeed his Dark Z. Don't ask me how this elephant got faster than a jet plane, but it somehow did. I tried everything, giving my Pokemon berries, playing around with their Z moves, but nothing would work. His team was just perfectly made to counter mine at this moment in time, so I did the only logical thing, grinding up my starter to level 40 and evolving it into its final form, Blastgia. Now we would have enough firepower to get the job done. First, I max out my Blastgia stats, because I know this Pitch Clank can't really hit me. We then take down this Iron Bird with an Aqua Tail, and due to its Vaporeon sturdy, it's able to get a Toxic off on me before dying to 2 bulldozes. None of that really mattered because Dark Z still outsped and knocked me out with a Psywave. From here on out, Rainbow Tyrant used Covets to steal Dark Z's heart, and we also got incredibly lucky to burn his Ivy Tina with a Temper Flare, which ended up nerfing the damage from its Shadow Forces, and even though we got put to sleep, eventually our dragon woke up from its slumber and protected me with one last Temper Flare. This prompted it to evolve into the majestic Tyranidash, giving him the new Dragon-type move, Leech Fang. That not only gets boosted by his Strong Jaw ability, but it also heals him up for half the damage he inflicts. After this, I helped the Captain puke and got my HM for cut, which we can't use until we beat the second gym gym leader ranch. But now that our team was so much stronger, this went from impossible to incredibly easy. All we needed was Blastia's flash cannons, and in a blink of an eye, this badge was already ours. I traveled back to Vermilion, cut down the trees to the gym there, took on some of the workers, and evolved Difey into Zwei Fairy. And with one of the moonstones I picked up from Mount Moon, we immediately evolved it into its final form, the incredibly cursed but happy Hydreible. With this upgrade, we were ready for our next opponent, Finley, who despite being a dark-type gym leader, looks more like a grass-type one. But never judge someone on their appearance alone, because we're up against their Loki tops. I started off with Tyrannadash and tried to get it off the field with my Z-move Twinkle Tackle, but she saw that coming and swapped into her defensive wall, Runagian, who could take it like a champ. So I swapped 2 and brought in Blastia while she healed up with a super potion. I proceeded to set up a Shell Smash, and she tried to counter that with Will-O-Wisp, but the first one missed and the second one got negated due to my Lumberry. So after a few more Aqua Tails, this Egyptian-looking Sphinx was out of the question. I would then set up another Shell Smash on her incoming Slurmuck and proceeded to KO the rest of her team with Flash Cannon and Aqua Tail. Dark-type gym leader defeated, 3rd badge acquired. Time to traverse Rock Tunnel entirely from memory, because I've played so many Fire Red ROM hacks that it's cooked into my brain permanently. Once I got out, I beat up this weird-looking witch that was obsessed with Clambone fusions. When she handed me her thick club, I also picked up the Rocky Helmet inside of Lavender Town and went straight for Pokemon Tower to take on our rival again. I wasn't familiar with this game though, since his team was grinded up to mid-50s, while mine was still at mid-40s. After another ego-shattering loss, I knew I had to come back here later. So my dragons flew me to Celadon City instead. Here I pulled out one of my dragon's fangs and used it to boost their own power. We also pick up the HM for flies so we can soar through the skies with our dragons, and after unlocking Mega Evolution by picking up the Mega Ring from some random NPC, then had a relapse after my Pokemon All-In video to enter the game corner again, just to see that they were selling some incredibly weird Pokemon that this world had never seen before. Like, what even is a Porygon? If it's a dragon type, I'd love to use it, but I highly doubted that. So instead I picked up a free gift Ito that itself isn't a dragon type either, but it can evolve into a large amount of Pokemon, and I'm pretty sure one of those has to be dragon type, right? My suspicions got confirmed when I used my Leaf Stone on it and got myself a Leafegon, my loyal and spiky grass dragon dog. I immediately wanted to use its power against the local flying type gym leader Stella, who's a character that's supposed to be based on another ROM hacker that made Ultimate Fusion. However, she changed occupation to a gym leader because that just pays the bills way better. So let's show her that battling isn't going to be any easier. First thing we do is set up a Swords Dance on her Aeroskeleton. Yes, because of this, she was able to set up a layer of spikes and stealth rocks, but we can still one-hit KO it with an Outrage. I wish our streak of carnage continued from here on, but that wasn't the case, as her Pitch Clank was up next and tanked a couple of my hits very well and even set up 3 iron defenses, maxing out its defense. This boosted the power of her body presses to the max, allowing her to one-shot my Leafy Dragon too. This meant it was up to Blastia to save the day. Our Hydro Pump immediately washed it down the sewers of Celadon, but then her Elexatu would come out, and she immediately started setting up with Calm Minds, so I did the same with Shell Smash. I would then tank a Giga Drain and send it into space with a Spatial Rend. Following up, Duskrobat nearly gets taken out by a Spatial Rend as well, but due to its priority Shadow Sneak, our Blastia ends up falling. That's when I bring in Tyrannadash and spam Rock Slide for 4 turns in a row, which is more than enough to get us the win over Stella. 4 gym badges acquired, halfway there. I then went back to the game corner, not to do gambling this time, but instead to confront the leader of Team Rocket, Giovanni, who's been wanting to create the ultimate fusion Pokemon to take over Kanto. And this is our first opportunity at jamming his plans. So let's show him that his fancy little office can protect him. He leads off with Carnelix, a grass steel type. Since it's 4 times weak to fire type moves, I bring out Hydreible and use 2 Temper Flares to scorch it up. Muniscan then proceeds to go down by an Iron Head and Outrage, and last but not least, Pignidon gets washed away by another Hydro Pump. With this win under our belt, Giovanni's plans would be foiled for the time being, and as he was in a hurry to leave, he also dropped his Silph Scope. So we picked it up and headed to the dojo inside of Saffron City. Here we just had to flex our muscles to impress all the other black belts, which rewarded me with my next team member, Guzlo Kid, the electric dragon type. He not only evolved into Guzlo Buzz, who seems to have an endless stomach, but I also want to take this opportunity to shout out the members of the channel because they get named after Pokemon I use in each and every every video. So if you'd like to support the channel and get featured all at the same time, you can do that by clicking the links in the description. It's always greatly appreciated. With that out of the way, let's take revenge on our rival inside of Pokemon Tower. First, I wanted to gauge my Guzzlobuzz's strength, so I put it up against his Pitch Clank. But when I clicked Thunderbolt, he went into a Guzzlo kit of his own, basically cancelling out my move. So I went back into Hydrable to try and take it down with Moonblast, but then he swapped again into Vapor Mori, meaning that I was at a disadvantage 2 times in a row. After a Steel Wing took about half of my HP away, I swapped back into my first pick and tried to Thunderbolt again, but the exact same thing happened. This kept on going turn after turn, so eventually I had to bring out Blastkia, who could send Vapor Mori to the scrapyard with a couple of Aura Spheres. We did, however, take way too much damage, so his Ivytina was able to finish me off with Shadow Ball. I tried to seal the deal with a couple of crunches from Guzzlobuzz after this, but I just wasn't strong enough. Once he got taken out too, my 3-headed fairy would have to do the rest, knocking it out with a Temper Flare and even burning his incoming Pitch Clank before eventually getting Psywaved into the grave by Darkno after we burn him as well. With most of his team members now crippled, all we had to do was bring out Tyranidash, who would then eat all of them for breakfast with his sharp fangs. Saving Mr. Fuji became a piece of cake once the Team Rocket grunts were gone, and after giving the worst ever flute performance heard by mankind, Garbolax would literally jump into the water to clean out his ears. We then stumbled upon Fuchsia City after following the next few routes, and grabbed the HM for Surf and the Golden Teeth from the Safari Zone. With these in my pocket, I beelined straight for the next gym, which was led by Damien, and he told me to bring a life raft because we would be washed away otherwise. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen, because his team kinda sucked, starting out with Cast for top. This thing spins around so much that it summons rain with its Drizzle ability. Too bad it couldn't spin away from this Thunderbolt though. He would then cheat the system by bringing out a legendary named Fanticuno, and I would be its biggest fan if it didn't blow me away with an Ice Beam. Luckily, we matched this aura by bringing out a legendary of our own, and after spamming Spatial Rend and Hydro Pump for a couple of turns, this fan would malfunction. Plus, we also wasted all of his healing items. He would then bring out a Wuktitrul that doesn't only look cursed, but also kinda dead. However, all we needed here was a Psychic Bite by my T-Rex horse, and the rest of the battle was basically already won, with Blaskia beaming away, Luminiking, and my personal favorite fusion, Infernados as well. But I would also love to know what your favorite fusion in this video was, so let me know at the end. Now that we have 5 gym badges, we can finally sail the 7 seas, allowing us to reach the power plant. This is where we grab the Electrozizer so we could get our newest evolution, Guzzlovire, who with his large pincer hands could easily crush our competition, which he immediately did to this washing machine bird. We would then learn that Team Rocket was attacking Silph Co, so we broke in ourselves, picked up the card key, and avoided as many grunts as we could. But I didn't expect that our rival was here too in search of stronger Pokemon. That's why he started to work together with Giovanni, so he could build his ultimate team. But taking this route didn't really seem to work out for him. So my Guzzlovire immediately chomped up his first 2 Pokemon, Pitch Clank and Darkno, which was made even easier with its Beast Boost ability, which always boosts his highest stat each time he knocks out a Pokemon. If his Guzzlobuzz wasn't faster than me, this probably would have ended up being a sweep, but a Dragon Claw ripped us to shreds. I tried to clap back with a Spatial Rend, but that didn't even take it out. And since he was starting to Dragon Dance up, my only other option was going into Hydro Fable, because she would be immune to any of his Dragon type attacks. Like clockwork, he would swap into his Vapor Mori, but this time I would click Nasty Plot. With this boost in special attack plus the power of the moon, his tank would finally be defeated, but I didn't really want to stay in against his Venutina, mainly because he immediately Mega Evolved it into this creature from hell, but secondly because Tyrantrum would easily be able to defeat it after clicking Leech Fang a couple of times. After doing the same to his Guzzlobuzz, our rival would be defeated, and we could save the director of Silph Co before Giovanni gets all of his secrets. And I have to give him props, Giovanni probably had the coolest team in this entire game, but I'm definitely disregarding his Carnix. We tried to slurp up his Spaghetti Snake with Guzzlovire, but just as I was about to do so with my second Hammer Arm, he swapped out into Rhyfembor. This is a ground fire type, meaning that it easily got extinguished with one Surf from Blastkia. He was unfazed as he brought out Mamoking. He got ready to tackle me with his giant piercing tusks, and with his Icicle Crash flinching me, that's exactly what happened. So I had to take revenge with Tyranidash's Psychic Fangs. We might have gotten won this little victory, but the battle was long from over, because his next Pokemon, Mushashkan, would KO me with a fake out. My only answer to this was Guzzlovire and his crunching arms. Two of those were luckily enough to seal the deal, and after hammering away on his Carnix, he would just be left with Corvi King, an armored dragon-slaying seahorse, used as a steed for only the most legendary knights, which is not what Giovanni had on his resume. So with a Thunderbolt and a superpower, we came out on top and stopped Giovanni's last plan. This whole showcase somehow gained me his respect, and as a reward, he tells me to go to Cinnabar Mansion for a special surprise. But if we wanted to get there to claim it, we needed our next gym badge first. So I took my free Master Ball and teleported into Kato's gym. But don't let his appearance fool you. He might look like a dragon tamer, but he's actually a ghost type user. And he leads off with this creepypasta Silph Co. What do you mean you don't see how this belongs in a creepypasta? Okay, let me just slash it open with a leaf blade. Hopefully that convinces you, because we're getting it off the screen ASAP. Even though he was able to set up a light screen and a reflect, we were still able to Swords Dance and Leaf Blade twice, which ended up critting and sent it back to the afterlife. He would then send out his ghostly alien or Bengar, who tried to drag me under with a never-ending nightmare, but our Spiky Fox survived with 3 HP and nearly KO'd it with an Outrage 2. I brought in my Guzzlovire to try and finish it off with Crunch, but he swapped out into Trevenine, and due to its Intimidate, my Crunch basically did nothing. So to get rid of the attack debuff, I swapped out into Rainbow Rex, but he got one-shotted by a Shadow Force. This gave my Guzzlovire a second chance to success, and he definitely took it, because with 2 more Crunches, Trevenine was defeated, and due to my Beast Boost ability, the rest of the fight became a slumber party, as we easily KO'd Cleavelass, Venutina, and Bengar. Now that we have 6 gym badges, I headed straight for Cinnabar, because I wanted to see what Giovanni's present was. And after scouring the depths of the abandoned Pokemon Mansion, I noticed something standing in the darkness. A very menacing looking silhouette. This was Giovanni's ultimate creation, Muclazar, the Pokemon destined to take over the region. Only now it would not be placed in Giovanni's hands. We could use this ourselves to become champion, because it would slot right into my final team member slot. So I used Silph Co's gifted Master Ball and plopped him straight in my team. But when we went back outside, I heard a terrible rumor that the local gym leader had somehow undergone a miraculous transformation. And I'm not talking about fusing with a Clefairy or anything. No, this girl had straight up been turned into a boat. But despite not having any ability to move anymore, she still remained as gym leader, because people just don't know how to get her out of the building. I guess all of this trauma made her heart pretty cold, because she now specializes in the ice type. Maybe she's trying to do an edgy Titanic thing here, but to be completely honest with you, I couldn't care less and just want my gym badge. So I sent out my Spiky Fox against her Aqua Slash. After getting poisoned by Toxic, we set up a Swords Dance and kill it with a single Outrage, but Aurora's had a different idea and boom bursted away my eardrums. So I thought, why don't I test Muclazar's strength? And I hit an Aura Sphere. It did about half of its HP, but then we also got one-shotted by a Boom Burst. Our dragon types are definitely struggling here. The only one who could really survive an ice type attack like that, and that's my big space turtle. He tanked the Boom Burst and washed the Aurora Dash away with a Surf, and we even forced his Goalie Slash out into an emergency exit. I also tried to Earth Power away our 9th turn, and even with a Shell Smash under my belt, and Volt switched out as it ended up KOing me. This made her go out into Butterlure, so I answered with Tyrannadash, and tanked a Quiver Dance boosted Hurricane, and proceeded to eat it up with my Leech Fangs. His Trevenine would then clean me up with an Extreme Speed. My Guzzlebuzz then came in, tanked an Inferno Overdrive, and killed it with a couple more crunches. However, he wasn't fast enough to outspeed Goalie Slash, so now we're down to my last Pokemon, Hydrable, who used Dragon Pulse twice in a row to clean up these last 2 Pokemon, giving us our second to last gym badge. And we're not playing around, we're straight up going to the 8th gym, because the Sevi Islands don't seem to exist at all. So let's see if we can stand up to the final gym leader, Cyrus, who thinks steel types can be broken down. So let's prove him wrong. I immediately thought of one-shotting his Eldersirker with a flamethrower, but he saw through that move and immediately brought in Corvi King. So I countered it by sending in Blaskia, setting up 2 Shell Smashes and killing it with an Earth Power. Here I thought, hey, I'm at +4, this should be an easy sweep. But no, Eldercirker had to survive and put me in the ground with a seed bomb. I yet again tried to scorch it with flamethrower, but he swaps out immediately, so his sandy metal died instead. With him cleaned up, we would see Dialzard, the starter that got left behind at Oak's table. And he wanted to take revenge for being left alone. So he dragon danced up, tanked my flamethrower, and countered back with a devastating Iron Head. This sent Hydrable to its grave, and he even tried to go all out on the next move as well, going for the corkscrew crash, which left me with just 2 HP. I then used my superpower to slay this wannabe dragon. Eldercirker then took me and himself out with a bullet punch because I had the rough skin ability. When Carnelix Mega evolved after this, his mouth somehow got even bigger, so I filled it up with 2 hammers and broke his jaw. His last Pokemon, Pitchclank, got devoured by my Tyranidash, and that's our final gym badge acquired. So let's fuse them together and head to Indigo Plateau. But would it really be a Fire Red ROM hack if we didn't have a rival battle first? Yeah, I didn't think so either. So let's destroy him and get straight to that Elite Four. I tried to get my first sweep going by setting up a nasty plot with Dry Fable. And while we were able to one-shot Pitchclank, Darkno had a different idea and nuked me with a Sludge Bomb. Rainbow Rex then showed off his power by KOing Darkno, Venutina, and Muclizar, and even crippling his Vapormarie before finally dying to a Steel Wing. From there on out, we could clean up the rest of the fight with Earth Powers and Spatial Rends from Blastkia, and after bringing out the big guns inside of Victory Road to complete the strength puzzles, and I also guessed to fridge up this bird, we would be able to get to Indigo Plateau. No team building acquired since we only found 6 dragon types in our entire run, so I walked into the first Elite Four members' room seconds later. This is where we would see a familiar face. It's the second gym leader, Ranch, who's been training relentlessly to get to this point and face me again. Too bad all of that was in vain, because we're going to the very top, even if it means having to go through her again. Just like with the final gym battle, she started off with an Eldercirker, and I wanted to take it out with Flamethrower, but guess what? She swapped out into a Weezroar. I know I wasn't going to do anything against this, so I swapped out into my Blastia and tried to surf it away, but that didn't end up working as she swapped again into a Nihilril. Another one of my surfs would have sealed the deal here if she didn't have Shadow Sneak on it. This lets her draw first blood, so now we have to start bringing out the big guns like Leafeon. With a Leaf Blade it would be defeated, but again I couldn't do anything against the incoming Weezroar, so I sacked my 3-headed fairy and earthquaked it with my Rex. I also hit another one on Eldercirker before an Iron Head finished me off. Muclizar then got a kill with his Aura Sphere and got Shinotails to about half of HP with Psy Strikes before dying to Draining Kiss. I would then send out Leafeon, kill it with a Leaf Blade, set up a Swords Dance, and wipe the rest of her team with 2 more Outrages. In the next room we would see another familiar face in Finley, and yes, this would be a reoccurring theme throughout the entirety of the Elite Four. And let's just say that they all just wanted to try and beat me, so let's see if she can succeed instead. Her lead is an Umbreluza, who definitely needed an umbrella to shield itself from this Moonblast I just nuked it with. Following up was Mega Dialzard, and this thing is actually a dragon type. If I knew this, I would have added it to my team as my Mega Evolution. But I'm not going to cry over spilled milk. Instead, I'm going to show it that we don't even need it. First, I hit it with 2 Moonblasts, but 2 Flare Blitzes were enough to take me out. Then I sent out Blastkia, and while it was healing up with full restores, we shot it through the roof with some Spatial Rends. Her next Pokemon, Kuraitu, definitely surprised me, because this means my Cyclizar 2 can probably evolve as well. We've just not been using its maximum amount of power, but we currently don't need it, so I blasted it with a Spatial Rend and feinted to a Dragon Dance boosted close combat. I would then show that we don't need this upgrade by smacking it around with its Prevolution. I also Aura Sphered Loki Tops and let Tyranidash play very roughly with the last 2 Pokemon, which saw me seal the win yet again. In the next chamber we would see the Boat Lady again. I don't know how they got her in here, but she's trying her very best to surpass her vehicular limits. But I'm going to show her that she belongs in the harbor by using a nasty plot boosted Dragon Pulse to finish off her first Pokemon, Pyrozing, in just 1 hit. Following up would be Toxtronite, another dragon that we had never seen before, and I probably should have captured. I tried to blast it with another Dragon Pulse, but it was faster and knocked me to the ground with a Sludge Bomb. And believe it or not, but we nearly got a sweep after this, with Tyranidash using Psychic Fangs to overpower Toxtronite, Vilosian, and play rough for Guzzlovire and Cirquilt. In the end, her Mega Amphikazam somehow survived an Earthquake and sent me back to my Pokeball with an Aurora Beam, but all she could do from here on out was heal up with full restores, so Blaskia and his Earth powers could do the trick. Now that this boat's dreams were finally crushed, I tried to use some of my items on Muclazar to see if we could evolve it. And after using our Thunderstone, we would indeed get Miraitu. This thing is so strong that it literally got the final Elite Four member Damien shivering in his boots. And it only became better because from here on out, we KO'd 3 of his 6 Pokemon, with either Electro Drifts or Aura Spheres. The only reason why we got finished off is because his Kingligator outsped me with 2 priority Aqua Jets. It also ended up being part Dragon type, so I guess we could have used this for ourselves too. But who would have thought that a Feraligatr Kingler fusion would suddenly become Dragon type? Not me. So we ended it off with an Earth Power from Blaskia, hit another Spatial Rent on Infernados before getting ripped apart by a Dragon Claw. He then healed up in fear as my My Little Pony hit the field, and with 2 more Earthquakes, it was also defeated, leaving him with the Pokemon that loves to do some glazing, Mega Glazor, the Ice Steel type. We hit an Earthquake to do about half of its HP and damage, and then it proceeded to one-shot me with a Double Edge, which it also did to my Guzzlovire, and that recall damage was the end of this Glazing Edgelord. With the last Elite Four member defeated, we would get to the climax of our adventure. One last showdown against our rival, Subnow. Will our dragons prevail, or will we be sent back to the dungeon? Let's find out. We all know he starts out with Pitch Clank, so I tried to Thunderbolt it with Guzzlovire, but he predicted it and went into Karaitu. I instantly switched to one of my fairy types and used Moonblast, which sent it back to Area 0. His next team member would be Brute Stalk, and I still have no idea what the second part of this Pokemon is. I tried to take it down with another Moonblast, but a close combat was enough to immediately knock me out. With the special defense drops, Miraitu could then blast it away with an Aura Sphere, but he answered by going into his Mega Starter, Venutina. We managed to hit it with 2 more Dragon Pulses before biting the dust due to an Earth Power. As I brought in Leafeon, he would of course heal up with his full restore, and that would bring him back to the exact same point with 2 more Outrages. By the time that I was about to KO it with a 3rd Outrage, he would swap back into Pitch Clank. Its dual Wing Beats might have taken me out the turn after, but because of my rough skin, he also took quite a lot of damage. I then brought out my own starter, and I set up with a Shell Smash before washing it away with a Surf. On the following turns, his Vaporeon got crushed by a few Earth Powers, Guzzlobuzz got warped by Spatial Rend, which only left him with Venutina. This is the same scenario as at the start of our journey. Our 2 starters are up against each other, and while last time we might have lost, now it was our turn to shine, and so we took revenge by waving it away with one final Surf. This completes our adventure as we get crowned as champion of Pokemon Minced Fusions with only Dragon types. Now on to the bread and butter. Should you try Pokemon Minced Fusions over other fusion games? To be completely honest with you, I'm not so sure, because each fusion game is basically the same at its very core, going through the Kanto region, but they also all offer a different variety of Pokemon fusions. In my own experience, this was one of the weakest rosters of Pokemon, and I also didn't really like the character changes all that much. Like, what was up with the boat in the gym? And like, where are the other gym leaders? Why were these ones appointed? Nothing really gets explained. So I wouldn't particularly say that Minced Fusions is worth your time if you've already played things like Fused Dimensions or Pokemon Charged Red. Plus, Infinite Fusion towers above all of these about 1,000,000 times. So if you really want to play a fusion ROM hack, I'd personally just stick to Infinite Fusion. Now with that out of the way, I want to thank my membership and Patreon supporters for supporting the channel as always. They really do help me out a lot, and if you'd like to sign up yourself, you can click the link in the description. And that's it for today, folks. I've been Zwiggo, and I'll see you all in the next one.